I'm 74 years old, and every evening at 6 o'clock I set 2 plates on my kitchen table, one for me and one for a man who hasn't eaten in 3 years. People think I've lost my mind. My daughter tells me it's unhealthy. My neighbor once saw me through the window and called to check if I was okay. But here's what none of them understand. I'm not setting that plate because I'm confused. I'm setting it because I finally know something they don't. My name is Eleanor May Hutchins. I was married to the same man for 51 years. His name was Walter James Hutchins. And let me tell you something about Walter. He wasn't a perfect man. Lord knows he wasn't. He snored so loud the walls shook. He couldn't fix anything without making it worse. He once tried to repair the kitchen faucet, and we had to call a plumber and replace half the pipes. He was stubborn as a mule and twice as loud when he thought he was right, which was always. But here's what Walter was. He was present. Every single evening of our married life, that man sat across from me at 6 o'clock. It didn't matter if he was tired. It didn't matter if we'd argued that morning. It didn't matter if the world was falling apart. 6 o'clock, 2 plates, 2 people facing each other. I didn't understand what that meant until he was gone. Walter died on a Tuesday. It was raining. Isn't it strange how you remember details like that? The rain was coming down so hard I could barely see the road. The hospital called at 4:17 in the afternoon. I remember looking at the clock on the wall when the phone rang. 4:17. And then everything I knew about my life just stopped. The first night alone, I didn't eat. The second night, I made myself a small plate and sat in the living room in front of the television. I couldn't sit at that table, not with that empty chair staring at me. I did that for almost 2 months. Eating on the couch like a teenager, avoiding my own kitchen. Then one evening I was washing dishes, and I found one of Walter's coffee cups at the back of the cabinet, the one with the little chip on the handle that I always told him to throw away. And he never did. He said that chip gave it character. I stood there holding that cup, and I cried so hard I thought I was going to break in half. And then I did something that made no sense. I set 2 plates on the table. I put food on both of them, and I sat down and ate my dinner across from his empty chair. People call that grief. They say it's a stage. They say I'll move past it. But here's what I've learned in the 3 years since Walter left me. I'm not grieving. I'm remembering. And there's a difference. You see, when someone dies, everyone wants you to move on. They use words like closure and healing and new chapter. They give you 6 months, maybe a year, and then they start looking at you funny when you still cry at the sound of his favorite song. They stop asking how you're doing because they don't want to hear the real answer. They want you to be fixed. They want you to be the old you. But here's the thing they don't tell you. The old you died too. You just have to keep walking around pretending you didn't. Walter and I met when I was 22. I was working at a department store downtown, selling perfume behind a glass counter. He came in looking for a gift for his mother's birthday. He was so nervous. He kept picking up bottles and putting them down. I watched him for 10 minutes before I finally asked if he needed help. He looked up at me and said, and I will never forget this, he said, "I have no idea what I'm doing." And I thought to myself, neither do I, but I'm going to figure it out with this man. We got married 8 months later. My mother thought I was crazy. 8 months? You barely know him. But I did know him. I knew him in the way that matters. I knew he would stay. And here's what I want to tell you. What I wish someone had told me when I was young and thought love was about butterflies and passion and romance. Love is about staying. That's it. That's the whole secret. It's not about finding someone who makes your heart race. Hearts slow down, passion fades, butterflies die. What matters is finding someone who will sit across from you at 6 o'clock every single evening and ask you about your day. Even when your day was boring, even when you have nothing to say, even when you've said the same things 1,000 times before. Walter used to drive me crazy with his questions. How was your day? What did you do? Did you talk to your sister? Did you water the tomatoes? Every single evening, the same questions. And I used to roll my eyes and give him short answers because I was tired or distracted or just didn't feel like talking. Do you know what I would give to answer those questions one more time? I would give anything. I would give everything. That empty plate across from me isn't sadness. It's gratitude. Every time I set it down, I'm saying thank you. Thank you for 51 years of 6 o'clock dinners. Thank you for asking about my day, even when I didn't deserve it. Thank you for staying when it would have been easier to leave. Because let me tell you something about marriage that nobody talks about. There are moments when you want to leave. There are years when you wonder if you made the right choice. There was a time, I think it was 1987, when Walter and I barely spoke for 3 months. 3 months of silence across that same table. We were so angry at each other, I can't even remember why now. Something about money, something about his brother, something that felt so important at the time and means absolutely nothing today. But we stayed. We kept setting those plates. We kept sitting across from each other. And eventually, we found our way back. That's what the young people don't understand. They think if it's hard, it must be wrong. They think if you're not happy every day, you must be with the wrong person. But happiness isn't the point. Presence is the point. Showing up is the point. Sitting across from each other day after day, year after year, decade after decade. That's love. Everything else is just decoration. My daughter thinks I should start dating. Can you imagine? 74 years old, and she wants me to download one of those apps. Find someone new, Mom. You still have years left. And maybe she's right. Maybe there is someone out there who could sit across from me at 6 o'clock. But here's what I know now that I didn't know when I was her age. There's no replacing Walter. There's no moving on from 51 years. There's only moving through. and I'm moving through at my own pace with my 2 plates and my empty chair and my memories that keep me warmer than any new person ever could. I talk to him, you know, out loud. I tell him about my day. I tell him what the neighbor said. I tell him that the tomatoes are coming in nicely this year. And yes, I know he can't hear me. I'm not senile. But speaking to him keeps him close, and I'm not ready to let go of close. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Here's what I want you to understand. You don't have to let go, no matter what anyone tells you. You don't have to have closure. You don't have to move on. You can set an extra plate at your table for the rest of your life, if that's what keeps you whole. Grief doesn't have a timeline. Love doesn't expire. And if you're young, if you're still in those early years with someone, pay attention to the 6 o'clock moments. Pay attention to the boring questions. Pay attention to the ordinary evenings that feel like nothing special, because one day they will be everything. One day you will ache for one more ordinary evening. I set Walter's plate down at 6 o'clock. I put a little food on it, not much, just enough to say, I'm still here. We're still doing this. You're still mine. And then I eat my dinner, alone but not lonely, widowed but not abandoned, grieving but not broken. That's my truth. That's what 74 years and 51 years of marriage and 3 years of that empty chair have taught me. Love doesn't end when someone dies. It just changes shape. Tell me about your 6 o'clock moments. Tell me about the person who sits across from you, or the person who used to. I read every comment. And I'll be honest with you, on quiet nights, those comments are my company. They remind me that we're all just people trying to figure out how to love each other while we're here. If this meant something to you, subscribe. Not for me, for the you who will one day be sitting at your own table, looking at your own empty chair, wishing you had paid more attention. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's grieving, someone who thinks they have to move on before they're ready, share this with them. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know there's a 74-year-old woman in a small house with 2 plates on her table who understands. Walter would have liked you, I can tell. He always did have good taste in people, except for that cup with the chip. But I'm keeping that too.